He knocked me over. I landed on the dog bowl.
This one's wife. She ordered Harry to snub Star. Hello, I'm hgTudor. There are various dynamics that exist between the narcissist and differing victims, and one of the most rewarding in terms of analysis is that between the narcissist and the intimate partner primary source. The IPPS is the spouse, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, the partner, the cohab. Many narcissists have an IPPS. Indeed, many narcissists find themselves in a problematic place if they don't have one and scramble to replace the IPPS should they be lost. I've covered that in separate works. The intimate partner primary source is selected on the basis that that individual is the easiest to control, but also provides plenty of fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. This one's wife's narcissism subconsciously caused her to select Harry for those very reasons. She did not think to herself, oh, he looks easy to control, and he'll fountain with fuel. He's got lots of character traits and residual benefits. I'll throw lots of spicy poontang in his direction in order to ensnare him. She didn't think in such terms because she is an unaware narcissist. Her narcissism caused her to believe that he was a wonderful human being, that he was attractive, that he was fun to be around, so that she was motivated to bring him under control, and thus she did. Her narcissism identified that Harry was easy to bring under control, that he would provide a lot of fuel, that he had extensive character traits that were useful to her, and significant residual benefits. Indeed, for a narcissist such as this one's wife, Harry presented as a fantastic target, the jackpot for a mediocre, mid-range, obscure narcissist such as her. One other aspect, of course, of the intimate partner primary source is the fact that they often play the role as a lieutenant to the narcissist with regard to manipulating other people. Born out of a sense of loyalty, albeit misguided, they will invariably undertake the demands and, in some instances, the direct orders of the narcissist in order to curry favour with that narcissist and or to avoid being devalued. It's easier to go along with what the narcissist wants so that the life remains a quiet and peaceful one, there's no blow-up, even if that means causing a problem for somebody else. Initially, the intimate partner primary source believes the propaganda that has been sent their way by the narcissist and invariably acts on it of their own free will. This is something that Harry did, where he swallowed the lies that this one's wife fed him in the early stages of their relationship. A good example of that is accepting whatever she said in relation to her father, so that Harry wasn't moved to press to meet Thomas Markle Sr., despite that seeming rather strange, given that he is the father of the woman that he was engaged to and ultimately married. Similarly, he accepted the basis on which they were to depart from the royal family to go to Canada and then to California. As time has gone by, although he is a dimwit, Harry will have seen the poor behaviours that she has engaged in. But he continues to do her bidding, because by now, having been in the sustained devaluation for a number of years, he knows that, quite simply, it's better to do what this one's wife wants than getting the pink pods tasered once again. And thus, although he may not agree with what she suggests, he goes along with it because it's easier to do so to keep the peace. An example of that comes to us courtesy of the New York Post and reported by Andrew Court. This one's wife reportedly barred Prince Harry from being photographed with David Beckham, at the 2018 Invictus Games, before the upset soccer star sought revenge against the royal couple 4 years later. The juicy saga is detailed in Tom Bower's new book, The House of Beckham, Money, Sex and Power, with the author alleging that the prince and the athlete had been friendly for years before their fallout. Now, it's interesting, of course, to note the suggestion that Harry and David Beckham had been friendly before, oh look, the influence of the narcissist once again. Beckham and his wife Victoria were guests at Harry and this one's wife's wedding in May 2018, but the relationship between the two couples soured less than 6 months later. Now, it's not suggested, of course, that Harry was around at the Beckhams on a weekly basis, but they got along just fine. They got an invitation to the wedding because, of course, they're a prominent couple known around the world, and this one's wife's narcissism would have deemed that it would be appropriate for them to be invited because it would make this one's wife look good. Oh, look, the Beckhams are at our wedding, similar to the Clooneys attending and so on and so forth. Nevertheless, the envy that is generated by this one's wife's narcissism then got in between the relationship between Harry and David Beckham. In October 2018, Beckham attended Harry's Invictus Games for injured service people in Sydney, in Australia, but was purportedly kept away from the prince at this one's wife's behest. Beckham found himself alone at the Invictus Games stadium, Bower writes in the biography. Arriving on the agreed day to meet Prince Harry, he was perplexed as to why officials were playing a dance to keep him happy, but away from Harry. The soccer player is said to have questioned officials as to why he wasn't allowed to spend time with the royal before he allegedly learned that the prince had ordered that under no circumstances was the footballer to be allowed near him. Now, this is a bit of a volte-face. Hitherto, they've been friendly. He's been at his wedding. So why is it now that Harry is suggesting, oh, actually David Beckham shouldn't be allowed anywhere near me? Photographs of the two together were forbidden. The royal snub was brutal. David Beckham was puzzled. Why did the prince refuse to meet him? The exclusion order, it later transpired, was issued by this one's wife. She did not want any competition in the media from Beckham, and especially not from his wife Victoria. Accordingly, the presence of David Beckham and Victoria Beckham amounted to a threat to control to this one's wife. The fact that they were popular, that they would be spoken about and written about, would detract from her. Not something that was done intentionally by the Beckhams, but something that this one's wife feared, and potentially with good reason. Albeit, of course, back then in 2018, whilst there were a number of us that had identified what she was and how she behaved, she was still enjoying a period of time where many people viewed her favourably. After all, it wasn't long after the wedding. Nevertheless, the paranoia of this one's wife's narcissism would suggest to her that the Beckhams would steal the limelight, and therefore something ought to be done. Because, of course, the narcissism is acting to protect this one's wife by dealing with the potential threat to control. This demonstrates to you the hypersensitive nature of this perception of the threat to control, that the presence of two other famous people, when you're pretty famous yourself, acts to threaten your need for control because you believe that they will steal your limelight. Accordingly, in order to nullify that threat to control, this one's wife didn't take action directly vis-à-vis Victoria and David Beckham, but she did so by ordering her husband, the intimate partner primary source, to ensure that he and Beckham were not photographed together and that they were not seen together. Harry, as loyal lieutenant to his wife, went along with this, allowing a friendship that had existed before to be damaged on his wife's say-so. This demonstrates the way that the victim is taken in by the narcissist. Harry, not being the sharpest knife in the drawer, and with his own emotional thinking, and seeking to keep this one's wife happy, engages in behaviour whereby he allows her, 1, to order him around, 2, to order him to have nothing to do with David Beckham, thus damaging a friendship, 3, causing the potential for the Beckhams to then become particularly displeased at this treatment, something which, of course, is not a sensible step to take, given, of course, the soft power that's wielded by the Beckhams. But remember, this one's wife's narcissism isn't concerned about what would happen next. All it was concerned about was nullifying the threat to control in the moment in 2018. Thus, Beckham finds himself snubbed, and Harry, demonstrating the spineless creature that he has become as a consequence of his wife's malign influence, goes along with this, acting as her lieutenant. However, in November 2022, Beckham decided to add star power to a celebration in Boston held for Prince William and Princess Kate, helping to overshadow a competing event attended by Harry and this one's wife. Beckham flew 7,600 miles from Qatar to Boston to join the new Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Kate, and President Joe Biden to celebrate the launch of the Royals' Environmental Earthshot Prize. The author alleged that on the same day, Harry and this one's wife were seeking to wow Americans during an event in New York. Inevitably, the Sussexes were overshadowed by the constellation of celebrities in Boston, Bauer writes. Beckham had got his revenge for the Sydney sub. Thus, Harry demonstrates that he is a willing lieutenant in relation to the machinations of his wife, who sought to nullify a threat to control posed by the Beckhams, but as with so many things this decrepit, useless, mid-range narcissist does, it backfired, with the Beckhams then shifting their allegiance to Team Wales, and David Beckham travelling all that way to add his star power to the Earthshot event, ultimately overshadowing what Harry and this one's wife were doing. An excellent example of the way that the narcissist will utilise the intimate partner primary source as a lieutenant, an excellent example of the way that Harry is controlled by his wife, an excellent example of the spiteful behaviour of this one's wife seeking to nullify a threat to control, damaging friendships, and then ultimately having it bite her on the backside at a later juncture. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.